This title is narrated with virtual voice, computer-generated narration for audiobooks. You'll Get Yours by Gerald Hansen. Author's note. Scandi Noir. Welcome to Derry Noir. Thanks so much for getting this book. When I wrote Static Cling, the fifth of my dark humor Derry Women series, little did I realize that a few years later, two of the minor characters in that book, DCI Leah McLaughlin and DS Nancy Darcy, would end up becoming the stars of a mystery series. I didn't know back then that I would write a series of crime novels. With this book, however, their time to shine has now come. Poor DCI McLaughlin seems to have been demoted, as he is a mere DI in this book. If you enjoy this book, why not see where McLaughlin and Darcy came from? Have a look at Static Cling. Chapter 1. She'd deal with Kyle when the film was over. She needed a few hours alone to think things through. She'd been counting down the days until this film was released. She loved sci-fi, always had. She'd seen the first two on some streaming service online, and now the third had come out 2 weeks ago. It had taken her that long to work up the nerve to go to the cinema. Cramped and dingy her flat might be, but at least it was safe. And ever since she had come back home to Derry, she was supposed to be keeping her head down. She didn't want anyone to know she was back. There was work, of course, but the bills had to be paid somehow. The easiest thing would have been to get something online. But she couldn't stick the thought of being holed up in her flat alone in front of the computer. She wanted to avoid certain people, but she wasn't a hermit. When she was working a shift, she literally kept her head down, thankful for the big caps they had to wear. Those caps had been a deciding factor in choosing the job. Of course, here at the cinema, she wasn't wearing her work cap, but nobody knew who she was, who she had been. She'd taken steps to avoid detection. She took her place in the queue to the snack bar a few steps behind a young teen bathed in cheap perfume. The lobby was heaving. When she'd thought of coming to the cinema, she'd envisioned lurking in the darkness in some seat far away from others, safe and alone. She hadn't thought about the throngs she'd have to push through in the lobby to reach that solitary seat. Maybe just skip the popcorn and scurry down the hall toward the comforting darkness? But no sense depriving herself of a simple pleasure. She was going to enjoy herself if it killed her. She hadn't been able to help coming back home. The moment she'd left Derry, the city had kept calling to her like the song of a siren calling sailors to their death on the rocks. Now she was skulking around her hometown incognito, dead to those she'd loved. Those she loved now dead to her. She'd come home. She had no home anymore. They say home was not necessarily where you come from, more where you were wanted, but nobody wanted her here. Ungrateful bastards. They were in the past. She wasn't like them. There was Kyle, of course, but now he had. It was like a punch in the gut when the brash, girlish yells of that song burst from the sound system surrounding her. Hey, you! Yeah, you! It was a song of its time, and the time wasn't now. The past had come back to haunt her. She gasped in her mind, feeling like a spotlight was suddenly focused on her in the queue. She clutched her handbag to her side, wrapped her cardigan more firmly around her bulky frame. Her fingernails dug into her palms. Her eyes darted from one cinema-goer to the other. Punters were laughing and chatting, enjoying their night out. Nobody was paying her any mind. And why should they? She was nothing but an unremarkable middle-aged woman, with a too-tight perm and large red-framed glasses. Lumpy and starting to sag, decades older than most of the cinema-goers. Heart pounding against her breastplate, she closed her eyes and forced slow breaths in and out. Her fists relaxed. She tried to blank out the frenetic synths and the boom of the drum machine, the half-yelled, half-sung vocals. She'd only heard the song once before since returning to Derry, at work a year or so ago. That had been torturous, especially as it had forced her to stare down at the price gun in her hand and realize how much had changed, how low she had fallen. She tried to ignore all the song brought up, focusing on the long dark hair of the girl before her, the hunch of the teen's shoulders as she texted furiously on her phone, the plush carpeting beneath her slightly sticky and strewn with spilled popcorn. She glanced toward the door. A man stood there grinning inanely at her.
To keep listening to this audiobook, I've left you a link in the description so you can do it, at no cost thanks to Audible's 30-day free trial.